Good afternoon, everybody. How you're doing? Good? That's good. Today is a very significant day to remember because it is 50 years ago today when a terrible tragedy occurred in Clear Lake, Iowa, when 3 famous rock stars were killed in a plane crash after finishing a gig at the Clear Lake Surf Ballroom, and they're on their way to the next gig, which was Minnesota, in Moorhead, Minnesota. They was doing the gig. They were going to do a gig the next night, and of course, sadly, then the terrible plane crash happened in the early hours of the 3rd of February 1959. And of course, those 3 stars who were killed were, of course, Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper. They had just finished the gig. They just done that gig at the Clear Lake Surf Ballroom, and it was actually that day, 2nd of February. It was actually an open date. It was never going to be a gig, but it was only a last-minute thing. So they finished the gig because those who were supposed to be on the plane were, of course, Waylon Jennings and Tommy Elsop. And the Big Bopper asked Waylon for his seat on the plane, and he said, and if everybody was okay with him, so he got the seat on the plane. And so then Ritchie Valens got his seat as a result of the toss of the coin with Tommy Elsop, who had gone back inside the dressing room to make sure everything was cleared. And so as a result of that, the toss of the coin occurred, and Ritchie won the toss and the seat on the plane. And so they were driven to the Mason City Airport by Carl Anderson, and then the plane took off about around after 1, or about 1 o'clock, and then of course sadly it crashed 5 miles northwest of the airport. And it was the first real significant tragedy in rock and roll. But let's not forget the positive thing, of course, is the music's alive. The music these artists made over 50 years ago is with us today and will always be there. Ritchie Valens and the Big Bopper had been on the music scene for less than a year, but they already had success at that point. I mean, the Big Bopper already had a big hit at the time with Chantilly Lace, and also, of course, Ritchie Valens already had a hit with Come On Let's Go, and he was in the charts at that point, I think around that time, with Donna, and La Bamba was the double-sided hit with Donna and La Bamba. And they're great rock classics today, still endures. And of course we mustn't forget Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly had been on the scene since 1957 when he emerged with That'll Be the Day with his backup band The Crickets. And he had so many hit singles in that space of time. I mean, when you think back of his body of work, nearly 2 years of him being on the scene, an enormous body of work, and what an impact that he made in that space of time. And of course these songs, as I said, from That'll Be the Day to Peggy Sue and Oh Boy and Maybe Baby, Rave On, Listen to Me, It Doesn't Matter Anymore, Heartbeat, you name it. All these songs that he made still endures today. And it sounds as good as ever and will always be around for a long time. He also become an influence for people like the Beatles and the Stones and the Hollies and Peter and Gordon and Bob Dylan, Linda Ronstadt, everybody. He was a pioneer. He was the first white rocker to write his own material at a time when people like Elvis and Jerry Lee never wrote their own stuff. They were mainly like cover versions and things like that. But he was the first to write his own material, and he was also the first to double track his vocals. And also with the backup band, of course, the Crickets, they pioneered the format of 2 guitars, bass and drums, because they started as a quartet, the Crickets, and then went to the trio lineup after Nicky Sullivan left in late 1957. But still, as I said, it's just hard to believe it's 50 years, but the music Buddy Holly made is still with us today. And of course you've got Buddy Holly tribute performers these days. I mean, they're keeping it alive. And you've got the Buddy musicals that's happening around the world, which is actually happening here in Brisbane in April this year, May. And if you want to go and see it, ladies and gentlemen, go and see it. It's great. It's a great show. I've seen it in 2001, and it's just fantastic. I mean, feel like you're being there, in the 50s. Yeah, it's just, as long as you got the fans who are keeping the music alive and the tribute performers, it'll be around for a long time. I mean, it just sounds so great. And actually, there's a little trivia for you. Today is also 51 years ago when Buddy Holly played in Brisbane at the Cloudland Ballroom, which was to those people who remember Cloudland Ballroom, which was a big venue in Brisbane for many years, which got knocked down in the early 80s. But there were a lot of rock shows used to be played at the Cloudland Ballroom. But Buddy Holly, along with Jerry Lee Lewis and Paul Anka, Jody Sands, and Johnny O'Keefe, played there this very day 51 years ago, because Buddy Holly toured Australia at that time, which on Friday was 51 years when he did that, when he toured here. Which, as I said, to those who remember around that time, who were 50 plus, and he toured, that he played in Sydney at the Stadium, then played in Newcastle, and then went back to Sydney to play another show, and then the Brisbane gigs at the Cloudland Ballroom, and then of course concluded with the 2 shows in Melbourne on the 4th and 5th of February 1958. It's just amazing, and you wonder to this day, what would he have been doing today if he was still alive? Would have still performed? He would have done a lot of things. He was sort of starting to produce and things like that, and he was sort of get experimented with his sound towards the end of his career, you know, and because you hear like orchestral stuff and all that on his recordings, was just amazing. He was just a brilliant singer-songwriter. He was very good. But as I said, it's sad that he sadly left us at a very young age, but he's alive in his music. And if you have anybody, to those out there, if you have any Buddy Holly music in your collection, put it on and listen to the music, because it's just so good, so enjoyable to listen. And as I said, as long as as long as there's the fans out there, whether people still play it on the radio, and you can buy his music in the shops and all that, and keeping the interest alive, the music is going to be there. Rock on and keep rocking, everybody. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.